How yous all doing tonight? Jack here. Welcome back to the channel. Hope yous are all having a fantastic evening as always. And the community is fighting back against EA's recent decision to move Criterion Games mainly onto developing Battlefield. But before we begin, if you like this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this, some more Need for Speed news, or just more videos on Need for Speed and racing games as a whole. But let's get right into it. The community is fighting back. There's a new movement within the Need for Speed community called #WeWantNFS. It was started by Korrmotive. I'll leave a link to his video down below in the description here. And basically, it's a movement to basically calling attention to the fact that Criterion Games and Ghost Games in the past for years have not been getting the resources or the support that they really need to take Need for Speed to the next level, to really make Need for Speed a great game. Now, while Unbound and Heat, in my personal opinion, were good games, they were pretty good games, they just lack that extra step, that extra resource, and that extra time to make those games even better. And when EA is basically siphoning Criterion Games over to helping develop Battlefield in between every release, it doesn't help the end product of Need for Speed. Basically, what this recent move has done is basically confirmed that the next Need for Speed game, while it may be good, the next Need for Speed game might as well be a pretty good game for all we know. It's not going to be that extra step better. It's not going to be that extra level that we've been asking for in the Need for Speed community. And I've actually seen a hell of a lot of negativity around Need for Speed. The Need for Speed community is very pessimistic at its core. I completely understand that, but like, I've been seeing people saying that Need for Speed's been dead since like 2005 and it's just a corpse of a game and they should just stop making Need for Speed games. Now, I don't think we'll be getting a new Burnout game anytime soon, unfortunately. I would love to, if Need for Speed took a couple years off to produce a new a new Burnout game, I'm all for that. I would love a new Burnout game, but I don't see EA doing that anytime soon, unfortunately. And the Criterion Games of today is not the Criterion Games that made Burnout. So if we're gonna get a Burnout-esque game, it's not really gonna be from Criterion. It's gonna be from some of the folks that worked on those games who are at new studios that they formed. Before we continue, I actually want to give you a quick history lesson. So this is nearly 10 years old at this point. I feel fucking hella old. But back in 2014, we had a movement called #CraigItUp, which looking back was hella toxic for its time. Granted, it was 2014, but still, basically is the entire community using Craig Sullivan as like a caricature to basically point fun at a lot of Need for Speed games and how glitchy they were, and basically saying, hey, we want the return of the underground style games. And it worked. We got Need for Speed 2015. Looking back, that movement was more so just people shitting on Hot Pursuit, The Run, because they didn't like those types of games. Granted, Rivals sucked, so they had a very good point. It was mostly about that, but at the end of the day, we got 2015. And now 10 years later, we have this new movement, We Want Need for Speed. So far, I haven't seen any real toxicity when it comes to this movement, which is good. Like, you don't want that. For me, this movement is really about Need for Speed and how it's really the only arcade racing game that's doing anything different nowadays. You have Forza Horizon, which is stale as shit nowadays, and then you also have the Crew Motorfest, which is basically just copying Forza Horizon. Aside from those two games, what other arcade racing games do we have that aren't festival racers? Like, Need for Speed's the only arcade racing game that isn't like a shoddy festival racer. You know, it's the last of the illegal street racing games, which is what I love that type of racing game. Need for Speed, you could tell, even though Unbound and Heat were good games, they're still somewhat one step behind their competition, where Forza and the Crew Motorfest are putting out like new cars left, right, and center. Need for Speed is very behind when it comes to that. They're a lot more slow when it comes to putting out newer cars and just putting out new content in general. I mean, hell, the car list for Need for Speed Unbound is hella outdated. There's a lot of cars in that game that don't have their updated variants. Most of the models from like the late 2010s. It needs a good update. It needs newer, I guess you could say. It needs to be more updated, and they also need to focus more on adding in relevant cars to what Need for Speed is about. And I've spoken my piece on that before, so I'm not really going to talk about it here, but I really think with this hashtag bringing awareness to the fact that Need for Speed is literally the only its unique selling point is the fact that it's not a festival racer, and they can make a fantastic game out of it and really push the genre forward if Criterion's given the time, the resources, and the team, the people, the manpower that they need to make a good game. And when they're basically being siphoned off to help with Battlefield, that's not going to happen. So Need for Speed is basically Need for Speed's growth as a franchise is just being stunted by them moving over to Battlefield after every game. So I'm glad a movement like this has popped up. Because to raise awareness for this, because I love this series, I love Need for Speed, and even though I don't have as much time as I wish I did to, like, you know, relax and play games nowadays, I still love Need for Speed. It's one of those few game series that I still follow every year, and I will buy every single entry. I grew up with it. I've been playing Need for Speed for 20 years, well over 20 years now, and I don't want to see this franchise go anywhere. I want to see this franchise thrive. It's really fucking annoying how we are literally on the verge of putting out fantastic Need for Speed game, probably one of the best that we've ever had. Like, we are almost there. We are almost there. But when EA is going and moving Criterion over to other projects, that's never going to happen. We're just going to stay in that. We're just going to stay, the growth of the franchise is going to stay stunted. And while the next Need for Speed game may be good, it may be a great game, it's not going to be next level. And that's what we want. We need a game to basically rival Forza, basically rival even what the Crew's doing nowadays. I never thought I'd say that, but the Crew, even though I don't like Motorfest, they're doing a lot of things better than Need for Speed is. And like I said, if EA is just going to take Criterion and make them do other things, Need for Speed is never going to get to that level. And then we're going to get this cycle of people on Twitter and on the YouTube comment section saying how Need for Speed's been dead since 1982 and how the games have never been good and how the EA needs, you know, it's just an endless loop at this point. It's a vicious cycle, and it's a cycle I would love to see end. And I'm hoping that, I don't know if this will do anything. I don't know what the end result of this movement will be, but I'm hoping it's a positive one, and I'm hoping somehow, I don't know how logistically possible it is for decisions like moving an entire dev studio over to another project can be, but hopefully we can get some answers, and hopefully maybe even a positive result from this. But that's it for me tonight. What do you think about this movement? Be sure what you think in the comment section down below. But that's it for me tonight. I will catch you all later. Have a good night, everyone.